I can see that people have started joining. Good. Is it good evening? Good evening, everybody. We'll just give people 5 minutes to join before starting. So let's just give people 3 more minutes. We'll start at 17:35. Okay, so I think we're going to go ahead and start. I hope everybody can see me. Hello, everybody. For those of you who are unfamiliar with who I am, my name is Mariah Tembo, and I am BongoHive's Digital Communications and Community Associate. So a pleasure to meet you. I know I can't see you, but hopefully you can see me and we can connect on this level. So today is very exciting. I would like to welcome you to the monthly Hive. It's called the Hive Buzz. So basically, this is the first of a hybrid series where we're going to be having 2 months webinars, then meeting in person. So this is going to be our first webinar. These webinars are going to be happening every month. If you're part of our community, I'll definitely be sharing in the channels as well as in our WhatsApp group as well. So look out for these series. So today we're going to be talking about introduction to business compliance, understanding regulatory bodies with Mr. Malama, who is BongoHive's financial advisor. But before I go on, I want us to do a quick exercise. As people are still joining in, we'll also allow them time to catch up as well. So in the chat, if you can you please introduce yourself and just mention any compliance challenges you may have had? So whether you're a startup, you're already in business. Well, it's just going to be a 5 minute activity so that we can jump right into it. I didn't even say Happy Youth Day. I know I've bothered you guys on a public holiday, but learning these things are very important. So just a 5 minute activity. I think we can end at 17:43. So in the chat, you can just introduce yourself, what you do, and just state what compliance issues you may have. So we can give it up to 17:43. And please, guys, feel free. This is a safe space. Feel free to interact as well. The more we interact with each other, the more we can learn and, gain more from this platform. So in the chat, just the 5-minute activities, you can just introduce yourself. I think we have some hands. Yes, Mr. Oscar. So I'm going to be allowing you guys to talk. So I'll start with Mr. Oscar Ngandu. Yes, please.
Okay, so I'm unable to write something in the chat. It's disabled.
Oh, the chat is disabled? Okay, let me try
Yes.
let me do that. Thank you so much. Yes, Mr. Simon, as I try to enable the chat. Okay, so I've enabled the chat. You should be able to type now. Yes, so you can make your submissions now. Everything should be fine. Thank you, Mr. Oscar, for bringing that up. So for those of you who are just joining in, we're just doing some introductions. So in the chat, you can just introduce yourself, what you do, and just tell us your biggest compliance challenge. I haven't seen any introductions, but anyway, in the interest of time, I would like to introduce Mr. Malama Mwela. Please, Mr. Malama, you can come and share your presentation with us. Let me just stop talking. I feel like I've spoken a lot.
All right. Good morning, everyone. Hope you're okay. And enjoying your youth day. I think today's just pretty much an entry level, beginner level introduction to compliance, key compliance things to regulatory bodies and the sort. And I'm sure as the time passes and we get more and more sessions, we'll get into more detail, focusing only in on specific compliance issues. But for today, just wanted to address what I think are very essential and sometimes, not overlooked, or sometimes you find that people such as SMEs are overcharged by quote unquote
Apologies for that. I think Malama must have dropped off. He should be back. But as we're waiting for him, please, your intros.
Means, but if you to form the basis of your company, this is a very, very, very important thing. You, of course, like I said, have to ensure that you are registered with the required bodies and you get the right licenses, permits that pertain to your business or the field your business is in, whether it's a health permit, standards being adhered to, many areas to look into. You also have to just, sorry, able to see my screen?
Can't seem to see your screen.
Okay, it's showing on my side. So where did you stop? Did you stop from from this slide?
Yes, this one.
Okay. Yeah, so like I said, the main three things that I want to look at in this presentation, and I want to keep it as brief as possible so that we can have room for questions, is the registration process, your key regulators, touch on your taxes, the tax types, so that you know what's relevant for your business or your organization if you fit the profile, and everything concerning workforce or labor, you know, and the different things that we will look into. But basically, in a nutshell, you just have to always remember that compliance, especially it's a big thing for big organizations, but especially for organizations that are starting up, compliance is a big, big thing because the penalties or the repercussions that come with not being compliant could result in very significant losses. But also it could also have a very big impact. Say, if your business wants to expand, maybe try to raise finance via debt or some sort of investor, this is the first thing that your financiers, your investors, whoever it may be, will look for. If you're not compliant, you don't have, you don't stay on top of your compliance issues, you're already a key risk for me. So I wouldn't, as much as your business is worthwhile or looks viable, that is already something that will stop you, would like stop any further progress. So in addition to the licensing and the business registration issues, this takes some time. I know we might not be able to afford legal counsel to give us some good advice on certain things. But if you can, it'd be very good to sit down with the legal counsel just to understand, outside of the license and registration issues, what are some of the key acts, some of the key laws that are, well, relevant for your organization, considering your profile, the products or whatever it is that you want to deal in, just so that you also stay on top of things. Fortunately, they say ignorance is not a defense, right? So whether you can never say that you didn't know as a defense if you're caught, or you find yourself in an issue with a regulator. So it's always good to stay on top of that. And I know, I would like to emphasize on this, which is your contractual agreements. For SMEs, I always say that, look, you could always have some sort of legal template drafted up. Again, I recommend you using, a legal counsel, because they know what key clauses to put in there, and the sort. So be it with your employees and everybody that you're dealing with. So you see, this is something that's overlooked, but I've had situations where someone comes to me and they're saying, bring up this issue of, oh no, issue with this customer and this customer, and maybe I need help to recover the debt. What remedies do I have? When it's like, okay, what contract do you have in place? Do you have an agreement in place with this customer? And it's like, no. Okay, do you have like anything in writing? No. So then it just becomes a very hard option. The only thing we can prove is that the customer owes you, but we don't know what terms, what the payment period is, what the maximum return period is, and so many other issues that can become contentious when dealing with clients. And the same goes with your suppliers and so on and so forth. So in terms of this form the backbone of just making sure you're on top of things and you have a solid base when it comes to just ensuring you're compliant and you don't have future issues with your business. So here are some of the key regulators that you should be aware of. Some, are obvious. PACRA for your registration issues and your post-registration compliance. I think everyone here knows your ZRAs, Zambia Revenue Authority, that's your tax issues. NAPSA, but some, I found in my interactions with some SMEs that they didn't know that they're supposed to be get the relevant permits or licenses from your local council. So this could be your trading license. This could be, the different levies if you own premises, if you're operating from a certain premises, health permits, XYZ. That's a key issue. And lately, councils have been on a compliance drive. I know I've had quite a number of cases where local councils are actually visiting building by building, just checking people's compliance. You've got your NEMA, which we're quite aware of. Workers' Compensation Fund, which I'll get into. But also another one that the following two are some of the ones that if you have employees, I would always encourage, always make a visit to the labor office just to understand some key. Well, when it comes to, having your employees and having that as a minimum in whatever contractual agreements you have. For people who are here in the value addition sectors, processing, you name it, sensitive goods, foodstuffs, you name it, you might want to pay a visit and just sort of see what sort of certifications you need for your products, especially if you're planning to sell them on a wider scale. This could potentially bite you, and this is usually a requirement from large scale or even just bigger clients if you're planning on doing clients. Then, of course, we go into your specific regulators. So, as you can see, just from this slide alone, you've got, 1, 2, 3, 9, 10, and you can even have 12 regulators that you have to be compliant with, which makes it a very, very big issue that you need to stay on top of. Because you don't want to find yourself in a situation where you're inconvenienced because you're not on top of this. But also, depending on how you are registered and whatnot, these are some of the things as you go in planning your business, you have to factor in your financials, in your cash forecasting, in so many other things, because all these are a cost. Depending, your revenue authority is a cost, your NAPSA deductions are an additional cost to hiring, so that will affect your decision on what you want to pay people, because on top of what you deduct from them, you have to add your own percentage. Same with NEMA. But then also there's the labor laws, which determine what is the minimum wage. And then, you want to go into a certain line or deal with a certain client, or a ShopRite or wherever it is, but now you need your ZABS certification so that your product is of this standard, and then that comes with you, adhering to certain things, so that will incur additional costs. Then you got just the industry regulator, your ZICTAs, your Banco Zambes, they all charge you different things. Some are based on your revenue lines, some are just fixed amounts, and so on and so forth. So it's very important you get a key grasp for this, because it's not a, a way to just tick a box. It is also something that you need to be aware of, because this will impact the costs you incur in your business, and could be the difference between you actually deciding whether to push ahead, to fall back, to divert funds to other issues, depending on the impact of all of this. So we come to our first issue, right, which is your PACRA. Obvious. Okay, so I think the key thing I found with PACRA is we have a situation where people want to register businesses, but the information is not, they're not aware of the information. And sometimes we'll find issues. I've seen quite a lot, and I hope I'm not offending anyone, but I've seen quite a lot of these what do you call it, tamangas. They say we do your registrations and this and that, and a few people have complained that they felt like they've been taken advantage of. Some issues were wrong in the beginning, they overpaid, and so on and so forth. So it's all about information, right? What is that information? The business, your process for registration, what you require, the fees, and obviously what you need to do after, which is just your annual returns. So let's address that now, because I think that's one of the easiest things to address. So here we have the PACRA website. Okay, so on your PACRA website, there's so many things you can do. So one of my favorite things is what we call resources. So your resources has got all your forms, your fees, and so on and so on and so forth, right? So this is where you get all your different kind of forms, depending on what you need to do. But the question is, yeah, I know those forms, but what do I do here? Then do I need to do this? All sorts of things are there. Like, there's multiple things that you can do with those forms, and you don't know which one it is, because people will give you wrong issues. So now there's this place called, if you click on your service information, it takes you here. So you've got your different categories of information that is there. So your business information will be here. So then that basically tells you, if you want to start a business, you can go step by step, right? It tells you everything you need to do, from name clearance, how much it costs, what forms you need, to sorry maintaining a business, what you need to do, your annual returns, how you file them, changing the company name, to closing the business, right? Oh, sorry, I meant to share this tab instead. So this is your service information tab, right? It gives you all your business information, from what you need to do from starting a business. If you look there, it tells you everything you need to do, what is limited by guarantee, what is limited by liability, what the cost will be, what the forms will be, XYZ, XYZ, XYZ. And the same goes for post your business, tells you about your returns. Transfer of shares, what form you need. So I'll go and transfer of shares. to tell you you need this form, you need to attach that, these are your fees, and even gives you the form to input. But on a much easier level, when it comes to your pakra and the sort, always you can also just um, have an online account. So from your online account, so I'm trying to log into now. So from your online account, which is your Pakra portal, some of you know about this, much like ZRA and the sort. This makes life easier being on the portal, right? Because it gives you what you want to do. So do you want to do a name clearance, register? So if you just click on that, it walks you through it. What you want, local company, business card, and you just fill it in from here. Everything you want to do. And it will even give you information on the side, what the cost will be, the fees. So some of the steps you can even do yourself and the sort. So the beauty about doing this, creating your own company using your profile, is you can manage your companies. So you can see here, I've got my entities here. So if I want to manage my company, which is this one, it will tell me what I need to do. And business entities, home. I can use it to I can file my own returns using this portal. So it minimizes the need for third parties to a certain extent. You have the information at hand, you won't be taken advantage of, or you can just do it yourself if you have the time, so to say. So this is on the registration part and compliance, so which is your returns and transfer of shares and the sort. So next is just helping you understand, and this table just shows you, helps you understand the different tax types, and they're various, but I think these are the key ones that are relevant for businesses in Zambia, and just to get a bit of understanding, right? So you've got your income tax. This is for companies that it was recently revised, have an annual turnover over 5 million kwacha now. So this one's a bit, when it comes to how much you pay, it's a bit technical because there's different aspects to it. There's your deductible, things that expenses that are allowed to be used as a deduction from your profit. There are some expenses that are not, and so on and so forth. So everything, when it's computed, we come up with what is called a taxable profit. And from there, depending on which sector you're in, it can vary. And this is why you need to be up to date with the different acts, SIs, so on and so forth. You've got your ZR website, you've got your different information there. Changes. So some sectors, if I recall, agriculture will be about 20%. The banks and the telcos on the higher, financial services and telecommunications on the higher side, and the sort. And there's so many other things that come into play that, you may be, was it 2 years ago, if you are earning incomes from exports and you're based in an industrial park, an M phase, there's a certain benefit there is to that, on that income and the revenue from those exports, and so on and so forth. So, that kind of information would be very helpful for you to also just do your tax planning, and also just to manage your expenses and the sort, if you are in this field. And additionally, when you're in that field of over 5 million kwacha, it attracts your VAT, your VAT. So then now you charge your VAT on your goods and services, and the sort. So to some people, they feel like, okay, if I add VAT, I become very expensive. But yes and no, right? It depends on who you're transacting with. If you're transacting with if you're providing a VAT claimable service, someone like there are some services and goods that the government permits partial or full claim back on VAT, and you're dealing with a company like that, they always look at the figure before VAT. Doesn't matter. VAT doesn't matter. If you are not dealing with something that is claimable, or you're dealing with a client who can't claim VAT, vis-a-vis the like myself, the individuals, the final consumer, then now that makes it a bit pricey for them, of course. Now, these are things that you have to submit every month, and you have to be very careful because the penalties on this can be quite steep. There's a daily charge for each day that you do not submit. Other than unlike the others, it's per month that you have not submitted, and so on and so forth. But others, there's a daily charge. So like this one is a daily charge, which makes it quite expensive. And the income tax you submit. Sorry, income tax is actually submitted annually. I need to change that. So you do 4 quarterly returns. You do 4 quarterly returns. Which we call our provisional income tax returns. And then you do a final income tax return around June the year after you've closed. So meaning 2024 final income tax is submitted in June 2025, and the sort. So for those below the 5 million threshold, you've got your turnover tax now. Turnover tax is just quite simple. It's 5% of what you of your sales or your income or your revenue. Now, the challenge with this is with turnover tax is that it can be quite pricey for an organization because it's not based on your profit margin. So you could be selling something that is high value but low margin. So say for example you sell something that's 100,000 kwacha and you're making a profit margin of 5,000 kwacha, right? And this is where you need to be very careful. So you're going to pay 5% or whatever it is on that 100,000, which is another 5,000. So essentially, all your money just goes to the turnover tax. So in your planning and your pricing, you just need to factor this in. And I'm sorry, again, I made a mistake. It's actually a monthly submission that has to be done. Okay. You've got things like pay as you earn. I think we all understand this, but this is also you withhold from an employee salary. There's a way you calculate it, submit monthly. You be careful with this one also because I have seen quite a number of situations where the company is withholding the PAYE, but cash flow issues come in, of course, and so on and so forth. So then now you have issues where it's now time to pay. And keep in mind, for all of these things, it's not just filing the return. You have to make the payment. There's a late filing there's late filing fees, penalties, there's late payment penalties, there's interest charges, on those penalties. There's interest charges on the late payments and so on and so forth. So it can get really expensive. So this is where you need to always just make sure that you understand your tax types very well and you do your cash flow planning in order to ensure that you're not impacted significantly. So these are the usual tax types and the whatnot that you usually incur on a regular basis. These are ones that you have to file monthly, quarterly, which means even if you do not have any activity in the month, you have to file a new return, or else you get charged late filing penalties, right? So then now you've got others like withholding tax and property transfer tax. So these are only taxes that you do as and when it is necessary. So if you withhold tax for services that are liable, for withholding tax, your consultancy fees, if you're paying someone consultancy fees, you're paying interest, you're paying royalties and whatnot. You have withholding tax applicable to that. So you, who is making the payment for the service, is liable, and not the other way around. So if you make your payment to the other individual in full, too bad for you. You are supposed to be the one to have withheld that tax and remit it to ZIA. And the interest ranges from 15-20%, 15 for locals, 20% for foreign individuals. And these are done as and when you actually incur this service or make payments towards the services. So key fact is it's not triggered by the invoice, it's triggered by when you're making the payment. Okay. But the two things can be intertwined sometimes. Property transfer tax recently increased to 8% on the sale value of whatever it is. So this is when you transfer ownership for things like shares, vehicles, car, land, property, and so on and so forth. So these are done as and when you do it. You complete the transaction and the other requirements that are asked from you. Please, on this one, I have to emphasize something. I've seen situations, I've come across situations where people try to play a smart one on ZRA, in inverted commas, and created their own document. So a house is sold for 3 million, 4 million. And then you come up with your own documents to say 2 million, so that you reduce the 8% and whatnot. This is a very huge risk that you're undertaking. So as much as you can do that, a valuation report is required, and so on and so forth. So there's only so much variation there can be from a valuation report to what you're actually saying is the sale value, so to say. And even then, the tax authorities will still do their own assessment, and then the figure might not be the same. So you have to be very careful with that one, and also just, I guess, be honest, right? So with taxes, it's all about understanding your taxes, fine-tuning your business or your model or how you undertake things, the timing of invoices, the timing of payments, this and that, to ensure that your cash flow is not impacted significantly and you stay compliant. Okay, so that's on your taxes. So before I go into the labor and employment side of things, maybe I can pause here if you have got a few questions that I can answer. I just don't want it to seem like I'm rushing through the presentation. So maybe we can open the floor for a few questions.
Okay, so does anyone have any questions up to this point for Malama? You can either raise your hand and then I can unmute your mic, or you can drop it in the chat. Any questions? Going once. Okay, I think we have a hand from Lawrence. So I'm going to start with Lawrence. Please, Mr. Lawrence Mape.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Thank you for the presentation so far. My question is with regards to, since the threshold for VAT has been increased from 800,000 to the 5 million, how easy is it to change basically your that requirement, especially when you're invoicing as well? Is it something you can go straight to ZRA And then also, just speak on voluntary VAT as well. I don't know if you could just speak briefly on that. Thanks.
Okay, yeah. So now with the change, and I've seen. Okay, still asking questions? Okay. So to answer your question on the VAT aspect, post 31st December, I saw quite a lot of companies were automatically removed from the VAT system. But if you're not, you can easily do it. So it's just a matter of you could go to a ZRA office and have a chat with them, or you can amend your tax type. So there is a provision on your online on your tax online where you can easily just amend your tax type. So let me see while I'm talking if I can try and access my ZRA login. So anyway, on your voluntary tax type, okay, on your voluntary VAT, yes, you actually, that is an option for you to do. So quite a number of people actually do go to ZRA and say, look, we want to voluntarily register for VAT. And this is because, you know, whatever reason you put in, do you foresee that you actually hit that 5 million mark at some point? Is it a requirement for you to be VAT registered for the people that you deal with, and so on and so on and so forth? And based on your case, your voluntary VAT would be approved and you can go on with being VAT registered. Did that answer your question?
Oh, sorry, Mr. Lawrence, you can answer in the chat. Can I read out the 2 more questions in the chat for you from Sarah and
Sure.
N before we continue? Okay, so N is asking, do those on turnover tax have to register for VAT or is it optional? And Sarah is asking, if a company is moved from turnover to VAT, what are some things they should look out for? So I hope you caught those questions.
Okay, cool. So number one, turnover tax, you don't have to register for VAT, but like asked before, it's optional. You can also opt for voluntary VAT, the process I spoke about, and the sort. So now when a company, to answer the second question, when a company now goes into VAT, the biggest thing that you have to look out for is cash flow. You have to plan your cash flow, because when you issue your invoice on VAT, your VAT invoices now, your view means that you have to file a return for that invoice that you issued, and you also have to make that payment, right? So the biggest risk there is if someone has not paid you for something that you have billed and whatnot, it means you find yourself in a situation where you have to get money from your own pocket to cover that. So if that situation goes on for a long time, it potentially land you in cash flow issues, or it will make you unable to make the payment. So then now you've got late payment interest accruing, which could be quite steep, depending on how much the amount is and the period that it is. Is there any other question there?
Yes, so we have a question from Chiwe who is saying, is it also mandatory to register for ZRA Smart Invoice for VAT tax type?
Yes, it is. So right now VAT is the priority, but going forward, I have to stay up to date because I don't usually deal with this stuff. Well, I don't really do it anymore on the regular. But going forward, it will have to be, it's mandatory. It will be mandatory for everybody, VAT, non-VAT. So you're better off getting ready now.
Okay, I think we can do the last 2 questions before you continue the presentation. 3 questions. How about 3? Is that okay?
Yeah, let's go ahead.
Okay, so Ruben is asking, can you enlighten me on the tourism tax types and how are they paid? what percentage they are. And then we have Chilumba, who's asking, we're just starting in supply to cover turnover tax. Do we add the 5% to the quote prices? And then Dumisani is asking, how does a company file returns if they have gotten business from VAT exempted organizations?
Okay, so number one, tourism, if I'm not mistaken. So tourism, you are liable for the same tax as everybody. I believe then in addition, you have your tourism levy. So this tourism levy is the 1.5%, if I'm not mistaken. 1.5%, but that is a levy that you pass on to your clients when you bill them. And then you file your monthly returns, and then you remit that 1.5% to your ZRA. The rest also apply. If you're above 5 million, then you have the VAT. If you're below, there's no VAT, there's just turnover tax, and so on and so forth. So the one that's specific to tourism is your levy, which is your 1.5%, if it hasn't been adjusted this year. So to say. But there also, you just look out for other benefits out there. So if you go to just there are some specific benefits, I think, that are targeted to certain what they call target industries or sectors. So I believe tourism is one of them. So it'd be good to look into that and see what's out there. I think with your ZDA would have that information, and then that would help you sort of like align and understand what are some of the key benefits that you can get from the regulators, so to say. So remind me the second question.
Okay, so the second question was, we are just starting in supply to cover turnover tax. Do we add the 5% to the quote prices?
I mean, that's on you, to be honest. So you can factor that into your pricing. And the sort. So it's not like VAT where you now put a certain line to say VAT. So it's in your pricing, right? Difference with VAT is the certain strict regulations that require you to clearly indicate on the invoice the VAT that you're charging. Okay. And if you're not charging any VAT, you put your 0%. With turnover tax, you don't have such a strict requirement, but it's in your pricing, right? So you could have a situation where you have something for 100,000, you add your 5%. But also remember, when it becomes 105,000, then your withholding tax goes from 5% of the 100,000 to 5% of the 105,000. So it could be, which one is the better of the two devils, but does it still make you competitive in your pricing? Because remember, if you're competing with a VAT registered company and you're supplying a company that is VAT registered, like I said earlier, we don't look at the amount after VAT, we look at the amount before VAT. So then you could outprice yourself out of the bid. Remind me the third question.
Okay, so the third question is, how does a company file returns if they have gotten business from VAT exempted organization?
So with VAT exempted organizations, and actually let me even touch on two things. So you've got people who withhold your VAT, and then you've got people who are VAT exempted. Okay. One, VAT exempted. These guys need to provide you with what you call the LPO. Okay. Which basically shows that these guys are exempted. So even when you're filing your returns, there is a section on your online returns when you're filing where you talk about one of the schedules will tell you about the supplies to VAT exempted companies. So now when you do that, it will ask you for what is called the LPO number. So you need to ensure that you have your LPO for these VAT exempted companies. Some people would try and argue with ZRA, like I got a letter, they showed me the letter from ZRA that they're exempt. You require that LPO to do it. Now, with your VAT that is withheld. So if you supply the government, for example, I mean the government agencies and some other bigger organizations, some mines, these guys will pay you your money without the VAT, right? So now you're in a situation where you received money less the VAT that you billed, and now you have to file a return. Okay, so then now you need what you call a withholding, a withholding certificate, right? VAT withholding certificate. So these are usually auto-generated. They come onto your profile. If the guy on the other side who's withheld it files the return and remits, so your challenge now is to push the other side to remit and file, or else you not have that. Else you not have that withholding certificate, and then that now impacts your returns, and then it's a trickle down effect, and you become liable. Meanwhile, it has been withheld, so to say. Okay, I think maybe we can move on to the next section, and then we get back to more questions.
Yes, that's fine.
Okay, I hope I've answered people's questions satisfactorily, and I sound like somebody who knows what he's doing and not a con man or a motivational speaker. Okay. So now that's just your general business, sort of like ensuring compliance from the general business side of things. So now you have compliance related matters if you do hire people. Some you just require to if you're going to deal with like the government, right? So you have to be very clear about, first and foremost, as a business, what are your minimum wages. It's a tough economy and the sort, but you need to ensure that you are aware of the minimum wage for each category type, whether it's general worker and so on and so on and so forth. And you have to ensure that your contracts that you sign with these people are legal, so to say, and they are enforceable and clauses. And we'll get into how we can do that. So then now comes the issue of payroll, right? So your payroll compliance, payroll processing, it's not so stringent now. There's many people who still use tax-based payroll systems and whatnot. But your risk is that you could be miscalculating the payroll for the people, and you are remitting less than you should and filing for returns for less than you should. So again, comes back to the same issue of penalties and the sort if you don't. This is in your interest, and there's a lot of local cloud-based systems now that are there that are affordable depending on the size of your business. So it's worth investing in it. There are companies that can do your payroll for you per employee if you want to manage the cost of administration and so on and so forth. So now we're in an economy or in a time where technology has just made life much easier for everybody, so to say. So on top of that, we must ensure that you're aware of all the benefits that your employees are entitled to, the sick leave days, the leave days, the so on and so on and so forth, right? And this one is also quite important. So I've had situations where people are working as and when there's no contract in place, so and everything is happening, and then this person ups and leaves and says something like, made a huge claim to say, I didn't go on leave for 3 years. And yes, sometimes even your own domestic workers who you think like, okay, there's an understanding, will give you issues. They go to labor office loves such things. Now you're in trouble with them. Things don't go your way. Now you have to pay, leave days that someone never took, gratuity issues that you're not paying, and so on and so forth. So now you find yourself with a huge lump sum problem that you have to do, right? And then now there's your safety. This is very important, especially if you own a business premises, because it could land you in a lot of problems and could be very costly for you. If someone does get hurt in the workplace and just shows that, look, you're just negligent completely, and you're letting these people work without safety boots or helmets, depending on the sector you're in, and so on and so forth. So then now, when that happens and you get inspected again by your labor inspector at such office, you could get hit badly. And sometimes, you find yourself in the news for unwanted things. We've seen quite a number of situations where that has happened, and the sort. So, key things you need to understand, right? NAPSA, you file your monthly returns. So NAPSA is 5% of your employee's salary, and you as the company have the additional 5% cost to do it, but it's up to a certain amount. I believe this year it's what? I forgot. Is it 1218? 3,400, yeah, 3,416 kwacha. So you can't deduct more than, that's about 1,700 or something kwacha from someone like that. Then now you have your NEMA, which is mandatory for all your employees. Make sure that you register them on NEMA and you are remitting your NEMA, which is 0.5%, and another 0.5% of the salary. So you essentially pay that. Workers' compensation is an annual thing. You do your assessment online. Again, all of these things can be done online. You can register online. If you just go to the actual websites, they'll walk you through it. So your employment contracts, and this is what I want to touch on now, right? And this is a very important thing because I've seen people fall prey to this. Okay. When you have a template for a contract, right, drafted by your legal counsel, which I, again, encourage you, find a professional legal counsel. Try to avoid downloading templates from the internet because they can land you in problems. So when you get this template or whatever it is, go to your labor department or the labor office, which is, what's that place again? It's just here by the museum, right? You write them a letter requesting them to review your contract template, which you'll be using for your employees, and so on and so on and so forth. And they get that approved so that in future you don't have a problem as to whether some of the terms and conditions in your contracts and the benefits you're offering to the employees are wrong or illegal or not permitted, or you're supposed to do this. Number two, make sure you have the confirmation on the different minimum wages applicable to your industry sector and to these people, and so on and so forth. And if you're in a situation where you can't afford that minimum wage, you need to get writing and say, look, I know it's the minimum wage, but this is all I can manage to offer people in this certain position, and so on and so forth. Is there a workaround, or is it fine to go proceed with this, and so on and so forth? And part of the discussions is they will come to actually verify, like, okay, your reasons for providing, like, because I'm a small company, I only earn 10,000 a month, so I can't pay minimum wage to someone 5,000 a month. Inspections will happen and everything else. Work closely with this department if you hire people, because you would land yourself in problems. This, unlike other regulators, and this is what I'm saying is, employees sometimes, or ex-employees sometimes, can be problems. The labor office doors are open and they're very easy to access, right? And if you're wanting, like, they are the easiest, they will catch you very fast. Okay, and you could get in a lot of problems, but they're also very easy to manage. Just ensure that you do things beforehand. Approvals, writing, everything else, even if it's laying off people and you are doing redundancies, you need to write to them to tell them this is what our plan is, these are the redundancies I'm planning to pay, this is how we plan to pay them, XYZ. So these ones I will emphasize more than the others because, you know, everyone seems to know about the rest except this. This I will emphasize more. And then again, you have to ensure that your PAYE and your local councils, the certain licenses and so on and so forth, levies that are billed to you or you're liable for, and they're based on the number of employees that you have. So those are some of the people on the other end now, if you have employees. But let me say this. If you want to do business with government, agencies, and some other key organizations, they require you to have a NAPSA compliance certificate, which you get every 3 months. So you'll be, and some require workers' compensation clearance, right? So these are some things you need to consider. Now, how to navigate this? I think it's best, and from my ethical and professional standpoint, I cannot advise, but it's best to ask and explain to go to your NAPSA office, workers' compensation office, give them your situation and feedback. And I'll be very honest with my experience dealing with regulators in the arrears. I've been dealing with regulators for over 10 years, right? The before and it was quite bad. You know, customer service was quite bad and so on and so forth. Over the years, I can tell you from my personal experience that this has changed significantly for a lot of these, and you find that you just have to find the time to go to the various service centers, call the various customer care lines, and these people will guide you and give you, based on your real-time situation, the best course to undertake and the sort. Or you could pay a professional consultancy firm, legal firm, accounting firm to navigate these things for you so that, you know, you are ahead of it and you handle it properly. So that's on the workforce related compliance issues. And remember, this is an interim, and you can always give us feedback on a specific issue with the tax type, whether it's how to compute it, how you want to do this, how to register. And I think we can set up some sessions where now we just do a walkthrough, like someone said about amending the tax types. We do a live session on how to do it, and we get to learn. But in all of this, I just want to say that as you grow your businesses, I've seen some people who have started businesses on the charts, who are in farming, who are in so many other sectors, and the sort. So in all of this, just try to have this culture of just ensuring that you are compliant and you are regularly communicating with your regulators. You have it, and you always make sure you do things in writing, you document, so on and so forth. Okay. And there are some systems if you have the cash that help you manage this stuff. There are companies, that people who can help you manage and navigate this. Who you can pay a regular fee to do this, but always ensure, as much as you are doing that, you need to understand better what it is that you are subcontracting or making people do. So compliance should always be a big thing for you at all times, factored into your plans for the future, factored into, your cash flow planning. When you have cash, first question should be, before I spend, what tax compliance, what NAPSA compliance, what X compliance, what payments do we have to make? Okay, so when we move that from there, that's the government's money. This is essentially the cash that we're working with. So let's plan around that. Or I don't think what will happen to be able to make that VAT payment because of these issues. Tax guy, this is the situation I'm facing. I'm going to incur penalties and this and that. I'm asking if we can do a sort of like payment plan for these liabilities in a short term, as I'm trying to get my cash flow aligned and I cover my money, so on and so forth. And just get into the habit of that. It really helps you. It really prevents a lot of problems for you and just gives your business a peace of mind and prevents unnecessary losses. So that being said, invest in it, invest in compliance, whether it's teaching your people, hiring people, teaching yourself, and the sort, getting people to another third party to just come and look and see if you're compliant. And I would tell people, like, this is one place as a business you should not unnecessarily save money. I'm not saying that you should spend the most, but I mean, I've seen situations where people would come to me, would go to this place, and the fee is charged. And this is something even lawyers laugh about, or are puzzled about, which is then based on the advice of the cheaper source, you get burnt, and then now you've got the additional cost of paying somebody who could have done it right the first time, right? But that doesn't mean that, okay, someone who charges low is wrong all the time. It's about knowledge. When you arm yourself with knowledge, you can query what people are telling you, how they're overstating things or understating things and the sort. So make this a very key part of your business, how you run it, and your strategic focus, so to say, because this can be very beneficial or harmful for you in future. So yeah, that's the intro to compliance. I hope I haven't bored people, and I hope I've answered questions accurately. And now let's open the floor to a few more questions before we come to an end.
Thank you so much, Malama, for that very insightful session. I think I'm going to start with the questions in the chat, but participants, you're also free to raise your hand so that I can unmute you as well. But let me just start with the questions from this chat, starting from Rebecca Chivuye. She was asking, what happens if you register your company with PACRA and ZRA, and then you don't file the nil returns? How do they calculate the penalty?
So new returns, they are actually, you can find them on the website. I mean the penalties. So I'll be very honest, and because I haven't had a situation where I've had penalties in a long time, I could misadvise. But so depending on what the issues are, right? There's different format. So like I said, VAT, there's a daily penalty. Last time I had a penalty, it was like 200 kwacha a day, 240 kwacha a day. I don't know what it is now. So until you file that return, you're being billed 240. PAYE is a certain similar, but it's for every month that you did not file until you file. And turnover tax as well, and the sort. So that's how the penalties are calculated. It's turnover tax, PAYE is done monthly. They charge you a fixed amount monthly. VAT is amount daily, so it's very expensive. Okay, what was the next question?
Next question, how do regulatory bodies balance fostering innovation while ensuring compliance? Sorry. For a company that operates across multiple regions, how do compliance requirements vary and what strategies can be used to manage them effectively? So this is from Simon.
That was a very long question. Could you repeat the last part?
So the last part is, for a company that operates across multiple regions, how do compliance requirements vary and what strategies can be used to manage them effectively?
Okay, so one question, I can't really speak on behalf of the regulators. They have
Hello, Malama? I think Malama may have dropped off. Let's just give him a chance to come back. Welcome back, Malama.
Hello.
Hello, welcome back.
Hi, Internet Things. Yes, so I was saying across, can you hear me?
Yes.
So I said across multiple sectors or platforms, it's a kind of a very lengthy question, but I guess it just comes down to the same thing, right? Just have some sort of tracker that just looks at all your requirements. So across many sectors, your compliance requirements, the top parts are always the same: tax, NAPSA, whatnot. And then it's now your different industry regulators, your Bank of Zambia, your ZICTAs, and so on and so forth. Those are the ones now where you can try and really zone in and try to make sure that you're compliant with. And, it's either you could have someone looking at that specifically if it's that demanding, or you could have a tracker and just make sure that you're keeping up with that. Next question.
Okay, the next question was more like a scenario. So this is coming from Ruben. It begins a scenario. If BongoHive, as a tech company in the software and app development space, builds its app like Yango, for example, and gives the service Yango gives to the public, my question now is, does BongoHive need to register that app as a business, or can they just do a product patent? I hope you got that.
Yeah, so the product patent is basically for your own benefit. It's not it's not really a compliance issue. It's just protect me from copying your product. But patents, it's you have to make sure and you really prove, and it's a long process of ensuring that your technology really is unique, right? Because you're going to stop people from copying it. So it's a very long process, and so on and so forth, and quite costly to undertake. So patents are separate from compliance. It's just protect yourself. If BongoHive has an app like Yango and is operating like that, that revenue, you know, is it BongoHive trading as Yango, Yango trading as BongoHive? But also you could create a business name that falls under your business, which is specifically dealing with that line of service. And that business name obviously come with its own tax issues, its own regulatory issues. Or it could just be you internally create a department, and that income is coming to BongoHive itself, but we know it's coming from the Ango services. And that now just forms part of the total revenue of the business and is liable for the income tax issues. It's liable for so many other issues. So key point is you could trade as a separate entity connected where you don't have as a shareholder, and then the income and expenses for that specific entity will affect the income tax, your VAT, XYZ. Or you can mix it with the whole business, and then that just impacts the compliance and tax issues for that whole business. All right, next question.
Okay, so another lengthy one a bit from Lumba, who is saying anyway, the cost of running slash managing a business is hard and expensive. Training is scarce. I feel only a certain type of people get training, get noticed, are heard. The rest of us depend on Google, only get noticed once the business looks scalable. Compliance, another headache. Once you formalize your business, then you are to operate as if you have been running it for 5 years. So this is more like a thank you. Anyway, thank you, Bongo Hive, for the meeting. Makes me go back to the drawing board to check whether the business is fully compliant to avoid penalties, punishment. So this is an appreciation, basically. We have, oh, yes,
Can I
sorry.
respond to that?
Yes, please.
Oh, thank you. Uh-huh.
Okay, and then we have one from, I don't know how to pronounce his name. Let me just say Mulawani. How do you go,
Mudwani.
yes, how do you go about compliance for commission? brackets, no fixed salary based jobs.
Okay. And I think the name is Meamui.
Memory.
Yes.
Yeah.
How do you go about compliance for commission, no fixed salary based jobs? Okay, I need some more context. So are we talking about you're hiring sales agents? So that's usually the one that is no fixed salary based jobs. So this one is all about the contract you have in place with these people. So again, I'm not a lawyer, but I will tell you there's some things that we call substance over form, right? So one is the contract you have in place with this person. Okay. So you have engaged them on a commission basis. So there are certain conditions that you have to ensure are in place or not happening so that it is not considered as sort of like a fixed term or full-time or payable position which is subject to minimum wage issues, right? And this is why I say talk to lawyers, especially get like good advice from them. So when you say substance over form, right, there's issues where people would say to avoid paying PAYE and just do the 15% withholding tax, we'll call my job consultant. Contract, consultant. That's the form. Contract is the form. But the substance of it is you're making key decisions in the business. You're reporting for work every day. You are doing all these things that a regular employee would undertake or would benefit from. Then yes, your contract may say consultant, but you're actually an employee. So as a result, my friend, you're not supposed to be doing withholding tax. You're trying to navigate the system, backdate all the returns. This is your payee. You all based on this assessment, right? So when it comes to that issues like that, it's the paperwork. Have someone make sure that the paperwork that you have with these people are intact. Now, commission base. Commission is withholding tax. If you're paying people, you withhold the 15% from the commissions, you submit your returns, and you make that payment. So that's the main issue when it comes to paying people commissions. Okay.
Okay, so we have people crying for some more on turnover tax. So we have Himambo who is saying, kindly speak more on turnover tax overall. And Philistus also said, for us on turnover tax, do you file returns net profit or gross profit?
Okay. I'll leave you to answer or communicate future sessions on turnover tax. But turnover tax is calculated on your sales, your revenue. So whatever, if you charged 100,000 kwacha for a product, 5,000 kwacha of that is turnover tax. You're supposed to remit 5,000 kwacha of that, which is 5% as turnover tax. So it's income tax that factors in your expenses, but turnover tax just looks at your top line. So as I said earlier, that's why you need to be very careful with how you price things, because you could price a high value thing and have a low margin, and now your turnover tax on that sales price is equal or more than your margin. I see some people want copies of the slides. I have no problem sharing copies of my slides in PDF format. Knowledge is power. We can have that. It shouldn't be kept like a secret. Recording, I don't know about that one. I think I will answer that. I think that's pretty much everything, unless there's anything else from people.
Okay, so for those of you who want the recording, this session is being recorded, so I can share it in the community group. If you're not in the community group, let me just add my details. You can save my number and join as well. So that's where we make most of our updates, even for our upcoming events and everything. So I'm going to leave my email and my number. I think you'll see there in the group. So any final questions for Malama? We are winding up the webinar now. I think it's been a very insightful webinar. And we should all take a step back and go do some internal audits in our businesses to see if we are compliant and close any gaps we may have, because it's important to be, it's important to be on the right side of the law and avoid hefty penalties. So please, if you have any last questions for Malama, you can either drop them. You're getting a lot of thank yous. I think they enjoyed the presentation, Malama.
Okay, great. It's always good to get good feedback and always just to share information with people, and hopefully we can have more of these sessions and just share as much knowledge on different topics and the sort. So please use this knowledge how you can, and if there's anything else you'd like to know, I think BongoHive is a very interactive organization, and through her she can reach out to me or any other people who are better placed, tax specialists, legal specialists who can dig deeper and give you even more information that will just sort of build and help you out.
Okay, apparently you didn't sound like a scammer, which is great feedback. Thank
I didn't
you.
sound like what? Sorry?
You didn't sound like a scammer. That's coming from Ruben.
It means I'm getting better at it, eh?
Okay, so just some information for the people in the webinar. We will be having, and she's falling, if I'm not mistaken, on a Wednesday. So this one is going to be about navigating Zambia's Data Protection Act. So we're going to be having another a representative from there as well. So please do save my number and then drop me a text so that I can add you to the community as well. And then I'll be sharing all that information there. I'll copy and paste these are the closing moments now. Any last questions before we conclude this call? I know it's a holiday. I know you people want to rest. Tomorrow is another working day, of course. So any other questions before we drop off? Thank you so much for attending. Otherwise, oh, they're asking if they can catch you on any socials, Malama.
What do you mean by socials?
I don't know if you're active on social media.
I'm active on social media, but it's mostly jokes. I don't usually post professional stuff and the sort. But you could always share my email with them. If they wanna just contact me via email, send me an email or something, then we can get a conversation going. Social media, I mean, give you my details, but I'm not that guy, the LinkedIn professional guy or social media posting motivational quotes. I'm just going to share memes and stuff, so you might lose a bit of professional respect for me, if I'm being honest. So yes, hit me up on email if you have any questions, and then we can pick up the conversation from there and see how can best advise you or just give you more information, whatever it is that you feel that you may need feedback on.
We actually have Ruben who's asking, I would like to understand more on how ZPPA works. Summarize that for him.
Sorry, what was the question?
From Ruben, I would like to understand more on how ZPPA works.
Oh, ZPP. Oh man, sorry man, it's that time of the day.
Malama, are you still there? Did you hear the question? I think Malama might have dropped off. I'm not sure if he's going to be back. Let's give him 1 minute. Maybe he'll come back because to answer the question, that is. Let's just give him 1 minute. Okay, he's back.
Hello?
Hi, Malama.
Hi. So I was just saying ZPPA is it's a compliance issue. So there are certain procurement issues that are regulated by the ZPP Act vis-a-vis your government procurement mainly. And one of the requirements is that you register with ZPPA. That's done online. So just go on the ZPPA website, you say register, they ask you for the information. The main thing is that you should have a tax clearance certificate and your business should be registered, of course. Then when you pay the fee, after a few days, they get back to you, most likely positive news. You're registered on ZPPA. The only thing you have to ensure to stay there is maintain your tax clearance and pay the annual fee. So even on the tax clearance perspective, if you're registering with new businesses, so on and so forth, the tax clearance and offset clearance is either way a requirement. So that's pretty much in a nutshell how ZPP works. I don't know if I've answered that question.
Okay. Okay, he's saying thank you. I think you've answered the question. It's 19 hours now. We can either take one last question or we can wind up because I can see that Kay has dropped something in the chat.
Okay, she's saying for business names, does one require business levy as well, or just two enough, which is park considering? You do need a business levy as long as you're operating as a business in this city. You need to ensure that you're compliant with the council. I see Dewa shared the ZPP website, so that's very good. That helps a lot.
Okay. I think we can come to the end of our session.
All right. Now, thank you very much, everybody. Thank you for the great questions. Let's interact more and share more knowledge. Look forward to the future sessions.
Thank you so much, Malama, for this. I wish there was a soundtrack for hand clapping. Let me clap on everyone's behalf. This has been a great session.
All right.
think a lot of people have learned a lot. If you do have any more questions for Malama, you can just get in touch with me. I see some of you have already started texting. Yeah, I'll make sure to add you guys to the community group. That's not a problem. Otherwise, thank you so much.